on to the tragic and sad New York Giants, because we got to talk about Daniel Jones with a neck injury and Tyrod Taylor, who sucks. He got rushed to the hospital. Now he's been discharged, but he had a rib cage injury. What's up with the New York pass throwers, Tom?
Jones looks like he's ready to go this week. They just told us recently that he's actually been dealing with a cervical disc injury that was impinging on the nerve, leading to weakness in his arm. So what happens there is, with the type of weakness he was experiencing, is something called myotomal weakness, where it's not that the muscle has lost strength, but the nerve signal to the muscle has been compromised, in this case, secondary to the disc material pushing on it. So what happens there is the nerve needs to be able to breathe a little bit better, needs to get what we call offloaded in order for that strength to return. And sometimes we can see it return like really quickly. In his case, it was a couple weeks, which is a pretty typical time frame for a not overly severe disc injury. If it was really severe, a lot of times they end up needing surgery. In his case, that's not the case. So he looks good to go now. And also, this was the left side. This was his left arm that was affected, not the right one. Not going to impact his throwing at all. However, he's still going to be at a heightened risk for re-injury, definitely. This injury was only 3 or 4 weeks ago, so there's still a lot of healing that has to take place. The Giants are going to really need to protect him, which I don't think they're very good at, but they're going to.
They're going to try, though, Tom. Well, yeah. Actually, I don't even know if they are going to try, but sure, okay.
They're gonna try to try.
There you go. Okay.
So, but from a pure, if he doesn't get injured again standpoint, you can expect typical Daniel Jones, not a dip in his production from this injury, but definitely a high re-injury risk that could be pretty bad if he gets hurt again. Now, Tyrod, on the other hand, with this type of injury, if they send him to the hospital, it's because they're either concerned of something called a pneumothorax, or a collapsed lung, which can occur from a significant rib injury or internal bleeding. So that's why they took him there. That's why they wanted to monitor him overnight. Everything was fine, so he was discharged. I wouldn't be surprised if he has a fracture that they just haven't told us about. Sometimes with rib fractures, they don't present, or they don't show up on the x-ray right away until about a week or two later. So, but that's purely just based off the fact that he had to go to the hospital. It's probably more significant than just a bruise. So we'll see how he does throughout the week, but not really fantasy relevant because Jones is going to be starting anyway.
Yeah, not fantasy relevant, not even real life relevant at this point, but that's a really good analysis. Thanks for that, Tom. And it was, did you watch the game on Sunday, the 1:00 Jets-Giants game?
Well, I had the Eagles on one game, red zone on one screen, red zone on the other.
So that tells me you saw precisely 21 seconds probably on red zone of this game.
Probably what? I saw Breece Hall's touchdown. That was about it.
Yeah, he didn't even have a good game. He was like 11 carries for 17 yards or something. At least he scored. But, Tom, we did nail when we talked about last week the number of punts because, my gosh, this game, first off, the Giants are just one of the biggest tragedies in recent sports history. My friends were all talking about it, how they outjetted the Jets. They did what the Jets normally do against the Jets, just suck and blow it in every way that they could. 11 punts for the Jets, 13 punts for the Giants, 24 total punts. That's the most in 20 years. And speaking of records, I got into this and looked it up a little bit. So the Giants amassed a total of 7 passing yards in this game. Yeah. 7 passing yards. Yeah, they refused to throw it in the second half. Pathetic. Tommy DeVito, nothing against him. They barely even gave him a chance to throw. Barkley had something like 40 touches. It was absolutely ridiculous. But I looked further into this. There's been, since the start of the NFL, 15,800 football games. It's a lot of damn football games, right? We'll call it almost 16,000. Okay. The Giants were, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The Giants were 9th worst all time out of those almost 16,000 games with their total of 8. 8. That's so funny. passing yards.
And
There was
you got to think back in the day, they didn't even like throw the ball really. They just ran the wing T or the wishbone all day long.
like a high school offense. Absolutely. So, I mean, we'll move on from this in a second, but this is insane. October 18th, 2009. I would love to, we would probably know a good amount of the people in that game. The Titans threw for a total of -7 yards. That's the all-time worst game.
Oh my.
You had the Titans go 2 completions on 14 attempts for -7 yards. Then the Redskins in 1955, the Broncos in 66. Give me a break. The list goes on and on here, but I don't see anything except for 2009 and 2023 as anywhere even near recent history. Oh, one more, last one, one more recent one. You had the Broncos in 2020.
Oh, that's when their receiver had to play quarterback.
Throw for 13 yards. Yeah, I would.
All their quarterbacks had COVID.
Oh, that's right. That literally two. Okay, yep. What
a receiver played quarterback, and oh shoot, what was his name? I can't remember, but it was like they didn't have a chance. They had no chance whatsoever. That game.
And the receiver had more passing yards than the entire Giants team. Great.
Yep. I think
Great to hear that.
He had one completion.
Yeah. Well, that's all you need to get 8 yards in the NFL. It's absurd, man. And this week, the Giants somehow the Raiders stink. They just fired their coach. And somehow the Giants are still underdogs this week to them with another gross total. So fantasy wise, we'll talk about Waller in a little bit. You have to play Barkley just off volume. But after him, and maybe, I mean, Waller even comes into question now just with this offense and how their lack of ability to move the ball. But you're not really starting anybody else except maybe Waller and Barkley. But the Giants, hopefully better days in the future, maybe a good draft pick.